we had standards, you use them for your own business. We are now building a benchmark product with those standards that have been expanded upon, and now we're hopefully accelerating not just the building out of them, but the adoption. And then we say, well, now we've got to make these standards open so that anyone who wants to access them can access them, use them, apply them. And it's that access thing. We don't want to create standards that sit in a closet that only Petabyte and AAHA can use and access and apply in our little benchmark world. We want to make it open, accessible, and in that regard, anyone who uses this system, who provides their data into this system, they're going to get a couple things out of it. In the first place, their data, just by bringing their data into this system, they are going to contribute to the development of future data standards, because it helps us see how people, as you pointed out, what people are labeling helps us develop a standard. When I know that there's 20 different ways this is being labeled, or 200, I can develop a standard around that. So that just by participating, they're providing to the knowledge behind building future standards, data standards, and the open data standards. That's one big thing they get out of it. The other one, which this is my little commercial, is hey, if you give your data into the system as a start, especially as an AAHA member, you're going to get something in return for that. You're going to get to see the data in its aggregate form across however many practices are contributing. And so, we're going to give you something in return for the data, because you deserve that. If you're giving your data into some other product today and not getting something in return, probably you should be getting something in return, because you're giving something of value. You should get something of value back. And then from there, we can build value on top of that.
Yeah, and part of when you were talking about accessibility and kind of the steps of that, like it's easy to access, easy to use, easy to apply. I want to go back to the part of easy to use, because you can get all of this great data. And for data geeks, it's fantastic. We can interpret it all day long. But what does it really mean to kind of the more common user? And that's part of what we want to look at too. So another piece of this benchmarking, as you're talking about, contributing their data, they can see themselves up against the aggregate, but it's also putting it into context of what does it really mean? Because reading charts is not always, just kind of natural for people to do. And so one of the things that we partner together on is coming up with a way that means that they can actually interpret it more easily. And we have something called the SPOT score. And it aligns a little bit like doing a FICO score. So people are probably familiar with trying to understand how their credit score is. So we've mimicked that to some degree. So what we have is like the aggregate has their score, right? And you have the average for the aggregate. And then you also have the top quartile and the bottom quartile. And so now it is put into perspective how the practices are performing in these key areas. And especially some of these areas also relate to one another, and people don't always realize some of those relationships. And so this score takes all of that into consideration and can feed back to people, what is your overall score versus what this aggregate is. But also in 4 key areas, we call them the spotlights. And in each of those has a dashboard with a number of reports in it. But that way people can really drill down to understand how did they get to that spot score. So they'll have some sub spot scores in there. And it makes it, I think, part of that ease of use is being able to look at something and say, oh, I'm doing well here. I need to keep focusing on doing that same thing. Or I'm a little bit more deficient over here. This is an area I can put more focus and attention to. So we've also tried to take what is in there and make it more useful just from everyday kind of terms for people.
Yeah, when I think about this, it is so perfectly aligned with our 8 words of simplifying the journey toward excellence for veterinary practices. It is, bar none, one of the key things that we will be doing to bring those 8 words to life. So in my mind, hey, if the spot score is 0 to 100, and 100 is sheer perfection, let's say my spot score is a 92. Well, that's pretty darn good. There's not going to be a lot of practices out there that are outdoing me in the overall spot score. But if I want to then drill down into one of those four areas and see if the 4 or 5 charts that comprise each of those four areas, because I think there's going to be 16 to 20 charts, right?
Right.
I might see that out of those 16 charts, 15 are in the green and one is in the yellow, right? And maybe that's something to do with customer satisfaction or repeat customers or forward bookings or something. I immediately, very quickly, am able to find that yellow or that red area where the data, if I was awash in data, it would be really hard to see. But we've developed this scoring system, this visual pathway to quickly find that yellow or red area, even if my overall score is really, really good. That, to me, is the essence of simplifying the journey toward excellence, because we basically said we've uncovered this nugget where continuous improvement is a great opportunity for you, even though the rest of your color scheme is green and you're in the green. We found this little nugget of yellow, and there's an opportunity for continuous improvement there. To me, that's really special. And of course, if you don't have all green and you got 5 or 6 yellows and a couple of reds or something like that, that's not a shame. That's an opportunity. You have opportunity to improve your practice administratively, clinically, improve your revenue outcomes, improve your patient outcomes, et cetera. That's what we're building toward to simplify that journey. And I just absolutely love how these align.